I've been sober from drink and drugs for the last 4 years, but is this extreme lifestyle even necessary for your personal healing journey? It's a really important question that I invite your attention towards. Do you need to restrict yourself to heal yourself? For me personally, going sober was one of the best decisions that I've ever made, but I recognize, having worked with people, that total sobriety may not be the best choice for you personally, and this gets even more complex when we encounter questions like this in the context of rising psychedelic therapies and plant medicines. There are many truths and many perspectives. Hopefully we can find the right one for you as we take a delightful walk through this deer park in sunny southern England. For the last few weeks I've been reflecting upon how I wanted to shoot this video, not necessarily just the beautiful scenery that you can see around me, but the 1 or 2 points which I can really bring to your awareness to try and encourage you to make this decision towards purification and towards clarifying your perception. Because I believe that clarity really is the #1 point to consider if you're choosing to cut out substances which are naturally going to muddy up your self-awareness. There's really no way of knowing if you are indeed the person you think you are, if the person that you're being is wrapped up in a very dangerous and self-destructive cycle of going out on the weekends and ingesting various substances or drowning yourself in other substances and never really having the opportunity to know who you are. And of course, it's almost a cliche statement, because how can I possibly say that you'll know who you are if you just quit a few substances? It won't be that simple. But I can guarantee that the feeling of at least the first 6 months, and definitely from 6 months going forwards, of being in that sober-minded state, all of your trauma work, all of your introspective journaling, and I'd imagine a significant proportion of your dream life and your imaginal life will naturally benefit. For myself personally, I didn't necessarily notice too many benefits during my first year of sobriety, but it was my first year of sobriety, plus the trauma work, in particular the inner child work, quitting pornography and practicing semen retention, as well as really committing to the research process that you can see in all of my normal videos. It's something which will not be completely replicated through just quitting the substance, but it's definitely the foundation that you can move from. It's something that I notice in the clients that I work with. If you want to work with me one-to-one, then I'm sorry, but you're not doing any substances for at least the 4 months that we're together. And for some people, this is pretty difficult. It's not the case that necessarily giving up the drink or giving up the illicit smokable is the challenge. It's more of the lifestyle shift, especially if you've got friends and family who you primarily relate to over a bar table or in a nice garden with something between your fingers. It's really quite the shift at the beginning, but it becomes very normal very quickly. And if you're willing to make that leap, which does feel like a genuine leap, at least for the first few months, and if you can maintain that decision, because it's not just going sober. You aren't sober forever if you just decide to quit drink and drugs. It is a continual choice, and it's the classic Alcoholics Anonymous, one day at a time style thinking. There is truth to it. I personally have never followed a 12-step. For me, when I went sober, just before my 23rd birthday, it was a feeling of wanting to honor my intelligence, my creativity, my overall spiritual curiosity, and fundamentally a feeling that I could finally, hopefully, discover myself without needing to numb myself and dumb myself. And I just don't think it's worth it for anyone, probably like yourself, who's a genuinely introspective and curious person. You just can get so much more from life if you clear out your system and you clear out your perception, and ultimately you don't need to be doing things just because other people say that it's normal. Normality isn't the indication of sanity, because you only need to pause and take a look around you and see just how insane the world has gone, and how many substances, not even illicit, just even the types of food that people eat, to realize that sobriety is a spectrum. This is another point that I want us to really focus on as we're going towards the second half of this video. It's not the case that sobriety is a binary on or off system. For example, moving away from drink and drugs to something like adult entertainment, I've noticed that, well, let's go explicitly. There's a difference between giving up those websites and giving up the physical act of releasing your energy in unskillful ways, or if someone's got an intimate addiction where they go and seek out casual partners on a compulsive basis, it's unlikely that you're really going to be able to break that habit overnight. However, I've seen this firsthand in myself, and I see this very often in clients that I work with. It's normally the energetic undercurrents which really require the healing perception. So you establish the perception through giving up drink and giving up drugs, and then when it comes to things like intimate relationships, or maybe things like workaholism, or things like perfectionism, which some could even say is an addiction towards a certain egoic identity which you inherited from maybe a particularly critical parental figure, you will only get access to that deeper subterranean undercurrent of your psychological complexity as a whole, to put it in short, if you're willing to take out the substance, but then realize that addiction goes much deeper. We can be addicted to a process, we can be addicted to a behavior, and we can definitely be addicted to a certain way of energetically perceiving the world. The man or the woman that gives up the intimate one night kind of situations. I'm trying to avoid the S word so that YouTube doesn't flag this video, if you can tell. But the man or woman who gives up those situations on the website and in real life will nonetheless still have a very long history of perceiving potential romantic partners in that way. And this really takes us to a point which I think is worth closing this on, because 4 years of sobriety, if it's taught me anything, it's taught me the ability to be honest with myself. I really cannot escape my own limitations, my own shortcomings, my own shadow attacks, and all those moments where I would privately, violently either attack myself or attack someone else because I lack the compassion in my heart, or otherwise unplug and dissociate through a wildly stimulating experience of one sort or another. If you choose not to ingest substances and you choose not to engage in activities which would pull you away from yourself, you will be painfully, utterly, unavoidably confronted with the reality of not only your ego, but yourself. And if you can go through that truly painful threshold initiation, if you can look at the parts of you which are still bleeding and find a way to bandage those wounds, and then catch the glimpses of the golden shadow which is just peeking through the clouds, all of your highest potential, maybe sobriety will be worth it. I'd argue that it is worth it, because what you're looking for with psychedelics, and this might be me projecting, and if so, then feel free to abandon this. What most people are looking for when they're going towards a psychedelic therapy isn't the psychedelic itself, it's the perceived outcome or the payoff or the benefit of having gone through the assisted therapeutic plant medicine experience of one form or another, or maybe a clinical lab. I'm trying not to name the substances in particular, but you know the ones. You're not looking for that substance, you're looking for the outcome of feeling integrated and whole. And I'm here to say that you can do almost all of that, if not more of that, with a consistent, clear-minded lifestyle which needs no substance or no intervention. If you're willing to put in the work, and you're willing to sit with the tension of your own inadequacies and be truly honest with yourself, sobriety might be for you. I see it work time and time again with the clients that I work with in one-to-one space. 4 months becomes a very wonderful foundation for multiple years of unbroken sobriety. And I see men and women chasing their dream careers, having dream relationships, and ultimately getting far more soulful. They know who they are, and they know who they are because they're no longer uncomfortable with addressing the reality of what they are and what they've done in the past. And by sitting in that fire, they burn away the baggage, and they can start to move towards the future in a bit more of a joyful step. This is technically a lighting test because I'm still figuring out how to work this camera and work this microphone, but we'll keep it on topic. One of the number one questions that I get from people who are asking, is it really necessary to go sober, comes from people who've had revelatory healing experiences while smoking or drinking or taking a certain substance. They get a genuine healing breakthrough, and then they come to me saying, Jordan, this was such a powerful healing moment. Do you really want me to give up these possibilities? And I say, yes, absolutely. That's not the real deal. The real deal's in your soul. And that's a comic way of saying it, but I do truly believe that the real deal is in your soul. And if you need to roll something up and smoke it to find God, then maybe you aren't being patient enough or quiet enough with your own sense of internal godliness, or at the very least, that little fingerprint touch of a godly imprint. You really don't need something beyond yourself to find yourself. It's a classic cliche advice, but I hope it works.